Neil, when you talk about the corporate interest trying to enslave the population, you come off maybe sounding a little bit like Alex Jones, as one person in the chat room has said. What is the difference then between you and someone like Alex Jones?
Well, Alex Jones is not completely wrong either. In fact, he's onto something in a lot of different ways. It's more the presentation that he takes flack for. And I don't try to exclude any facts. I'm not trying to gloss over anything. I'm just trying to talk about the truth here and try to find solutions for our problems. Alex, unfortunately, comes off as being a little over the top. He's so passionate about what he does. But I don't think Alex is all wrong either.
Well, okay, I guess the reason I asked that question is a lot of people find his wild conspiracy theories and his thoughts of a new world order and, of the Illuminati, for example, are all things that crop up when you start talking about certain things. And it doesn't seem to me to be a coincidence that a lot of people who are against drug prohibition seem to believe in government conspiracies. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It just seems to be a common trend I've noticed. Why do you think that is?
Because there is a move by the financial elite in this world to coordinate in North America our economies and our security issues. It's called the Security and Prosperity Partnership document, and that's not anything that's a conspiracy. That is the truth. They're having meetings behind closed doors on these issues, and they want to coordinate those issues amongst our three governments. And that is not something that Canadians should embrace at all. This is being orchestrated mostly through the U.S., and it serves their needs, not ours. This is a huge sovereignty issue. Whether or not it's an Illuminati, a group of ruling families that have had the information about how to control the masses through the use of myths and religions for thousands of years, well, that's some speculation, and that can go in all kinds of different directions. But the more I looked into the powers behind what's wrong and why they're doing it, it comes down to money and greed and some financially elite groups and some families like the Rockefellers as well. Well, maybe I'm a bit of a conspiracy nut too, except that the more you look into it, the more you find out that there's some real truth behind these things.
Well, if there is such a movement to regulate and enslave certain things and make the population act a certain way, what chance does one guy inline skating across the country? What chance does someone like that have to change the way things are done?
Well, I don't just meet people one-on-one. I get a fair amount of media coverage. I have handouts, 12 pages, double-sided, a lot of information on that about a lot of different things to do with these issues, and I give those out along the way. It's not, it's about one guy doing that, but this is an awareness campaign. This is about waking up a whole bunch of other Canadians to how important these issues are and what mechanisms we can try to find to solve them, so that it stops being one man. Once I start skating and talking to people, and as I affect people along the way, it becomes many, many people. And if enough people really stood up and wanted to fight for their rights, we have a chance of getting them back, because that's the advantage that we do have, is we have more people than they really can deal with. There's only a few that are trying to control a great many. But, on another note, perhaps, an example of what we're talking about is the for-profit private prison corporations in the United States. And coming here to Canada soon, this is the model that they're trying to adopt. They don't mind disobedient people. These drug laws incarcerate a lot of people. The United States incarcerates more people than anybody else in the world. And they're not just people sitting and wasting away their lives in cages. They're working. They're working hard. These privately owned prison corporations still contracts with other corporations to manufacture furniture and all kinds of other different things that we've got these prisoners working on. They get paid 12 cents a day. Those contracts they're filling are worth $20 an hour. So, there's huge dollars involved in enslaving people into the prison system for disobeying their consuming laws or their consumption laws. Like I said, the more I look into it, the more of a nasty thing that's going on this is here. And this is being orchestrated by corporate interests. This isn't governments doing what they think is right for people. Our governments are not trying to protect us from these substances when it comes to drug prohibition. If that was the case, then tobacco would be prohibited, and alcohol would be another big candidate, but certainly not cannabis.
Right.
This is not about governments caring about us.
That's a good point. You bring, and I guess the question is, since you feel so passionately about it and you're so concerned about it, I guess my question to you, I guess as a final question is to you, you really don't have a choice being who you are. Then, it's from what I understand, you don't feel you have a choice as whether or not to do this freedom tour. Is it correct? Am I correct in saying that you believe that you have to do this?
Yeah, I'm a guy who tries to do the right thing. And when it's laid out clear for me what's right and what's wrong, and I've got a path to choose, I'll choose doing the right thing. Once I became aware of these issues and how important they were, I couldn't just work in the mainstream after that.
So I guess what you're sort of saying is there's no other way that it could go down for you, and you've made a commitment from now, I guess, to the remainder of your life to work on this cause.
Yeah, that's all I can say. I live moment by moment. There's some long-term issues about the Freedom Tour that I'm hoping to accomplish, but I take things moment by moment and do what I feel is right. And at this point, this is the path that's been laid out for me. And as far as the Freedom Tour goes, I've done this now 2 years in a row. There's a lot of people that are counting on the Freedom Tour coming back into town. In Alberta, there's rallies being set up in Calgary and Alberta and Lethbridge. There's lots of sponsors for those things now. Certainly, my course is set in that. I now just have to follow this thing as it's taken on a life of its own. And I am certainly committed to doing that. We want to make this a better place for our kids to come. That's what we're trying to do here. I want to get the police seen as friendly protectors of people. I don't like how they are seen right now as bullies and to be feared.
Agreed.
Most policemen, when they go to become a policeman, they had that dream. It started for them when they were kids, that they could be that guy that people would look up to, and they could be the hero that would come in and stop somebody from hurting somebody else.
That would be a nice.
And that's the job that they should have. They shouldn't be running around worrying about whether you're consuming corporate drugs or not.
And pepper spraying you for being at a peaceful rally.
Yeah, exactly. For trying to just diffuse a situation that was being escalated by a police officer. That's all I wanted to do, was diffuse that situation from the get-go. And yet, obviously there was some resistance to diffuse it. So what his agenda was, and why it was in his interest to escalate it into violence like that, I'm not sure. There had been a history with the organizer of that event, with the police in that small town, and they were kind of out to get Jack, and that may have had something to do with his behavior that day. I can't really speak much to that except my experience of how he behaved, and that was not a rational, peaceful man that arrived on the scene to try to figure out what was going on. That was a guy who arrived there to escalate some level of violence and make a scene.
Well, what are you going to do, Neil? If you run into that guy again?
Oh, I would talk to him civilly. I'm not going to beat him up or anything.